There were a couple of outdoor projects that I wanted to do today, and all of these projects really involved being outside. So let me first roll the footage of what my vision is, and then we'll talk about what I decided to do today to really make my vision come to life and get these projects done. One of the things that I need to do is I need to really fill in some of my boxwood hedge. So I need to get a boxwood right here to fill in this gap. Maybe clean this boxwood up as well because I see that I do have some dead branches, or maybe I'll just get a completely new boxwood. These are wintergreen boxwoods. So maybe one or two boxwoods here. Again, just to fill in this hedge. And then I think I might need one more boxwood right here. Other than that, I think my boxwood hedge is pretty complete. I do also have some speedwell that I might want to take care of, so this is starting to come in beautifully. But then I think this one might be dead, so I'll replace that. Then dead speedwell right here. Because I have these speedwell that sit in front of my Oh So Easy roses, and then I have some David Alston roses back there. Luckily for me, I have some extra speedwell right here that I can move over there. And then that will match what I have on the left side of the house. Then also it looks like I lost some of my Nepeta. These are cat's meow, I believe. So I'll get some cat's meow if I can find them to fill this in. If not, I'm just going to continue to let these cat's meow grow, and then eventually I'll just divide them. The speedwell is filling in nicely. And then I think that will pretty much wrap up with the projects that I need to take care of outside today. Excellent. And then I have some Puxter Blue butterfly bushes. I'm debating whether or not I need to replace both or one. I thought both of these died, but then all of a sudden I started to get some new growth here. But then for here I have new growth, but it's at the base, and I don't know if that's really gonna mess up anything. So I'll look for one of those as well. When I went out to the nursery, there were a couple of plants that I was able to find, but there were some other plants that I was unable to find. Let's start off with the plants that I was able to find. The first thing that I was able to find was the Puxter Blue Butterfly Bush, which is from Proven Winners. This is an absolute beautiful bush that puts off amazing blooms all throughout the growing season. The first thing that I needed to do was I needed to remove the current butterfly bush that I had planted in the ground. When I started to dig around the butterfly bush, I noticed that it was a bit easy to move, which to me meant that the roots of the plant weren't really well situated in the soil around it. This could be a sign of potential root rot, or it could just be a sign that the plant has undergone some dormancy recently, so it's not really focusing a lot of its energy on throwing out roots. But regardless, I began to dig out around the butterfly bush that was currently there, and eventually I was able to pretty much pull it up without problem at all. Now, if you look at the butterfly bush roots, you'll see that the roots really aren't white, and you'll also see that there really is no sign of any kind of great growth at all. This could be a sign that perhaps the plant was getting too much water, because butterfly bushes, they don't like to be waterlogged, so they don't like wet feet. In fact, they do prefer to have well-draining soil. I do know that this is a problem when it comes to some of my plants that I have in my circle in my driveway, because it just really doesn't have that great of drainage, and I'm also dealing with clay soil. And I don't like to amend my soil either. So instead of focusing on amending the soil, the thing that I wanted to do here is I wanted to focus on how can I best prevent my butterfly bush from dying or getting any kind of root rot in the future. The key when planting your butterfly bush is you want to make sure that you keep it a bit elevated. You'll notice that when I put this plant into the hole, at first it doesn't quite sit right. In fact, it is a bit elevated. So I am going to dig around. So I then decided to dig around a bit more and try to dig a little bit deeper, but not too deep. Once I got the right size, I'm placing my butterfly bush back in, and it was about an inch elevated over the soil level, which is absolutely perfect. That is what you want when it comes to your butterfly bushes, because what happens is as it begins to rain, that rain is going to be funneled away from the root ball as opposed to being funneled directly into the root ball, which then can ultimately lead to pools of water and your butterfly bush might decline. But once I was able to dig that hole and I got that inch of elevation, it was great. So I then decided to backfill, and then I cleaned up the mulch around it, and it looked like I was never there. Awesome. If you like videos like this and want to continue to see more videos about not only outdoor gardens but also indoor houseplants, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. It's totally free. It would mean a lot. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to today's project. My next task for today really focused around trying to take care of the gaps that I had in my boxwood hedge. My boxwoods are planted about 22 inches on center, so the first thing that I needed to do was I needed to put the boxwood in the spot that I thought it best fit. Because my boxwoods are planted relatively 22 inches on center, I knew that this boxwood wouldn't be perfectly placed 22 inches on center of either side of the existing boxwood. So I just really eyed it to make sure that I was close enough to center. Being close enough in the center between both of these boxwoods is really good enough because, again, what I'm going for is I'm going for a hedge. First thing that I needed to do was, after finding my spot, of course, was I needed to really move the mulch from away from the spot where I was going to ultimately do my digging. Here it was pretty easy going. I was able to stick my shovel in, again, just using a hand shovel here, and the dirt came up relatively easy. And again, you'll notice that I'm still dealing with clay soil. Now, this particular area has been mulched, not only with wood mulch, but it also has been mulched with leaves as well. So it has a bit more, it has like a thicker top soil layer, and you'll see that as well as I'm taking these chunks out. You'll notice that it has a nice big thick layer of black soil, which is absolutely beautiful. And when I'm removing my boxwood from the nursery pot, you'll also see that the roots of this boxwood are absolutely beautiful. They're nice, white, vibrant, which is really what you want to see when you're getting any kind of plant from a nursery, because that means that the plant has been taken care of. And it also means that your plant won't really undergo that too big of a shock when it's moved from one environment to another. So once I take my plant out of the nursery pot, I then like to shake some of the excess soil off, because not only does it allow for the roots to dangle a bit and not wrap around itself, but it also makes it a lot easier to compress the root ball to the level that you want it to be in. For this particular plant, or this particular boxwood, what I was aiming for was I wanted to get it on level with the driveway. Typically, people plant boxwoods about an inch up or an inch elevated on soil level, but I really wasn't going for that look because I knew that even though the soil wasn't that well draining, these boxwoods can take a lot more wetness than a butterfly bush, for instance. So by keeping it level, it's going to make the hedge look a lot better. Also, as this boxwood begins to grow and fill in the area, I'm not going to have to worry about too much water landing into the root ball because there's going to be so many leaves that are deflecting the water away. So this was a pretty easy task. Once I completed this area, I then decided to move on to the next section of the garden, which was trying to complete the boxwood hedge on the walkway. I just have a small gap here, and again, I'm really doing the same thing that I did before. The first thing I do is I put the boxwood down to check to make sure that it's in a great spot. Once I find that it's in a great spot, I just remove the mulch from around the boxwood, and then I can begin to dig deep enough for the boxwood. Now, I was 2 for 2 here. These boxwood roots also looked absolutely beautiful, and I again shook off the excess soil. And once I shook off that excess soil, I was able to put the boxwood at the right level where I wanted it. Once I got the boxwood in the right place, I backfilled with soil again, and then I covered it back up with the mulch that I previously removed. Once that was done, again, it looked like I had never been there. So that was amazing. I did have a boxwood that had some browning branches on it, and just for tidiness, I wanted to go ahead and remove the browning branches from the boxwood. So I just took some snips, snipped the 2 or 3 branches that were browned, and everything was good. One of the reasons that you want to do this is just for overall looks, but you also want to do this because it helps improve the overall circulation of your boxwood plant. If you don't occasionally go in and thin out some of your branches, you'll notice that you could potentially get some fungal disease. And with that fungal disease, it would be a bit difficult to eradicate. Now, fortunately though, this plant or this particular boxwood is a bit on the smaller side. So the chance of it getting some kind of fungal disease because of overcrowding really was minimal here. I was purely just removing these dead branches because I wanted the aesthetics of the plant to be really more clean cut and more vibrant. The last thing that I wanted to do today was I really wanted to get the speedwell gap filled in. So I had a speedwell that it looked like it was dead. So I really needed to resolve that. So it was pretty easy to dig the speedwell up, just really a couple of quick digs of the shovel and the speedwell just plopped right up. I did want to improve the hole depth because if you notice, the speedwell that was currently planted was a bit too elevated, so it didn't really allow the root ball to sit at a level that would allow for the speedwell to get bigger. So I made the hole quite a bit bigger, and then once I did that, I went to the location that my speedwell were growing in the front of the flower bed, and I really just wanted to move one that I knew was alive into that dead zone spot. It was pretty effortless. Now, this particular root ball for this speedwell, because it was in such great condition, it did extend pretty deep and pretty the circumference of it was pretty wide. So I just had to take my shovel and took my hand as well to try and keep the roots that were surrounding the speedwell from all coming up at once. It's not really going to harm the plant. This was more just to prevent mulch from flying everywhere and trying to keep the mulch as tidy as possible. So once I was able to get that particular speedwell up, the one that was closer to the front of the flower bed, it really was no problem for me just to transplant it into the existing hole. It fit very, very well, and once I was able to put it into this existing hole, I simply backfilled and then put the mulch back around it, and my speedwell hedge looked absolutely amazing. Now that I have my speedwell hedge and I have the Nepeta in front of that, it is coming along really well. The garden is coming along really well. Now let's talk about the plant that I couldn't find. I couldn't find the cat's pajamas, or it might be cat's meow. It's one of the 2 varieties. I couldn't find either of them at the nursery that I went to today. Now the variety that I'm talking about is the variety of Nepeta or catmint that really doesn't get too tall, and it's very well structured and very compact. The reason why I wanted that is because I think it serves as a very beautiful foreground plant to the oh so easy Italian ice roses that I have right behind it, and it is just overall a beautiful plant. So I'm either going to go to a different nursery to see if I can find it, or I'm just going to wait until I have some more growth of the Nepeta and then just do a division of the existing Nepeta, because ultimately I do want to have that beautiful hedge that sits in front of that speedwell. That wraps up my outdoor projects for today. It was pretty rewarding just to see my garden come back to life during the springtime, but it also is pretty rewarding just to see the hedge just over the years becoming more and more full and finally having the hedge grow together and actually looking like a hedge. I was also happy to see that I could very easily transplant one of my speedwells from one location to another, because plants aren't cheap nowadays, and if you could use an existing plant and just repurpose it in a different location, that is always great. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean a lot to me. Again, thank you so much. My name is Brad, and I'll see you on the next one.